Fans of BL, hop on quickly, I can't stop the car.
Under the night sky, with moonlight entering the room, two handsome guys are engaging in some intense activities.
Moans keep coming, don't do this, Bayu's face flushed pink from frustration, panting heavily.
Don't do this, Nialinyu, holding his disheveled hair, stop crying. As long as you promise never to leave me again, I won't hurt you. Bayu responded. Nialinyu stood up and said, you should have obeyed earlier. Meanwhile, Bayu is freaking out internally, calling out to the system, little confused, come out quickly.
Is this my target for the strategy? A cute little boy system appears. Let me see, host, he doesn't seem to be your target for this strategy. The target you're supposed to strategy is, where is it? Just wait. Bayu is utterly frustrated, damn it, he's not the target after all this acting in trouble. At this moment, Nialinyu catches Bayu by the waist. Leaning in, I will take good care of you. Bayu, knowing he's not the target, doesn't want to pretend anymore.
Damn it, a direct knee hit, followed by a crack sound. Nialinyu's manhood is definitely seriously injured.
Then, with a karate chop, he knocked Nialinyu unconscious. He kicked the man off him and moved him aside. Hurry up, get up and put on your clothes. It really is fragile and vulnerable.
Worshipping the system with shining eyes, the host is mighty and domineering. Truly powerful, defeating the enemy in one move. Stop it, no more useless talk.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be busy for nothing.
Hurry up and find the target for this strategy, don't delay me from completing the mission and being reborn. The system is flipping through its notebook diligently.
Completely shocked, it's all over. Bayu, what's wrong with you now?
The system quickly apologizes, I'm sorry, host, I accidentally made a mistake. The target for this strategy, the system points with its finger, is the one you kicked in the vital parts, lying on the bed. Bayu is speechless, you might as well not be called the clumsy system, call yourself the troublesome system. The clumsy system immediately cries, boo-hoo-hoo, I really didn't do it on purpose. Bayu sat on the bed, staring at the unconscious Nialinyu.
Isn't he the big boss? Why can't he take a hit?
The system thinks maybe it's because you kicked him in the vitals.
Who knew you'd strike so hard? You're a man too, don't you know how painful it is to be hurt there? You better quickly transmit the plot to me, I need to think about what to do. Dealing with such an unreliable system, Bayu is also fed up. The system directly transmits the plot to Bayu. Mission objective, obtain 100% favorability from the villain boss within the specified time. Reward, rebirth. Target mission, the overbearing CEO Nialinyu, who has an extremely strong possessiveness, and wants to control anyone he recognizes as his own. He wishes to bind them to his side 24 hours a day. And the person he has recognized is you in this world, whose name is also Bayu. You don't like Nialinyu, even hate him for his overbearing nature, always wishing to leave him immediately. Meanwhile, your brother Ziling has always wanted to replace you, inciting you to elope while informing Nialinyu of your plans. After your escape attempt, Nialinyu captures you back to the villa and imprisons you. Refusing to submit, you directly utter the most provocative words to him, I would rather be with a dog than with you. Nialinyu, clenching his jaw, holds your chin and says, you are mine, you can only be with me forever. Escape is never possible. Just like that, Nialinyu breaks your legs and binds you to his side with iron chains, subjecting you to various humiliations. Eventually, you couldn't bear it anymore and end your life with a pair of scissors. After your death, Nialinyu goes mad, completely falls into darkness, and begins to seek revenge on the world. Then, the world completely collapses. Special reminder, the higher the villain's darkening value, the higher his tyranny. If the darkening value reaches 100% before the mission is completed, the mission is considered a failure. Now, your task is to soothe Nialinyu, preventing him from having the time to destroy the world. Currently, you are at the moment of being captured after eloping. If you don't please Nialinyu, your legs will be broken. Bayu, while untying his clothes, said, all right, I understand. His sexy body directly showcases how tempting a man's body can be. It's too much for me to bear. The system wonders, what are you trying to do? What do you think? Of course, it's to make amends. Lying beside Nialinyu, she strokes his face. Now, it's still not too late, right? What do you think Bayu will do to make amends because of the system's mistake? Due to a system error, Bayu almost crippled Nialinyu. To salvage the situation, she had to step in personally. The system is perplexed, but the host has fainted. Are you going to be on top? And then do that to him? I can guarantee you, if you're on top, tomorrow it won't just be your legs that are broken. Bayu continued to hold Nialinyu's neck. Who said I wanted to be on top? I don't want to work that hard. Now is the time to cleverly kiss Nia Lingyu's neck and plant many strawberries. She also pinched a few herself. The system is embarrassed. Host, are you just planning to bluff your way through? Baiyu grabbed Nia Lingyu's hand and then her own waist. Let's just try and see. What if he forgives her? Thus, the two embraced and fell asleep. The next moment Nia Lingyu opens his eyes. Seeing Baiyu in his arms, who had been plotting to elope with someone else, he says, "Do you really detest me that much? I really want to strangle you so you can never leave me." Ziyu snuggled into his arms, looking so pitiful that Nia Lingyu couldn't help but soften. At this moment, he wasn't afraid of me at all, just quietly lying on top of me, which was quite nice. Suddenly, Baiyu let out a trembling cry, which pained the male lead. It woke him up. The system told Baiyu that the host's current favorability rating with the target character was 20. Baiyu thought to himself, this favorability is really low, this mission isn't simple, just as I expected. He opened his eyes and gave Nia Lingyu a bright smile. Lingyu, you're awake. After what happened between us yesterday, you have to take responsibility for me. Baiyu pulled down his clothes to reveal the marks on his body. Look, you've kissed me all red here. The system broke into a cold sweat. Host, you're being too fake. He's not a fool. It was clearly you who kicked him in a sensitive spot. Nia Lingyu stood up directly. I didn't touch you at all yesterday, and you're still lying to me now. Baiyu hugged Nia Lingyu directly. I don't care, it was you who kissed me. Look, there are also kiss marks from me on your body. I want you to take responsibility for me. I will cling to you and never leave you. Nia Lingyu was stunned. Doesn't he hate me the most? He can't wait to leave me. Ding. Target's affection increased by 5 points. Baiyu's mind kept receiving prompts. Oomph, easily handled. The system was quite impressed. Wow, the host's affection has increased. You're amazing. Baiyu thought, he looks so tough, but he's just a hypocritical and love-deprived guy. Nia Lingyu coughed for a week. No, I can't just believe him like this. Then he stubbornly said, a slut like you, who knows whose marks are on your body? Do you think I would believe your nonsense? Baiyu was frustrated. This guy is really hard to fool. I'll have to use the harsh method. He pinched himself on the thigh. The pain made tears flow down immediately. He said pitifully, Nia Lingyu, you big jerk. You used me up and now don't want to take responsibility. How can you treat me like this? You're bullying me. Wah! Nia Lingyu looked at the person in his arms and felt very guilty. Did I say something too harsh? But I really remember not touching him yesterday. Baiyu hammered Nia Lingyu's chest back. You big bad guy. You're so bad. Nia Lingyu hugged Baiyu directly, thinking, I drank too much yesterday. Did something really happen between us that I forgot? He coaxed Baiyu in his arms, saying, I'm sorry, stop crying. It's my fault. I drank too much and don't remember. Mingming, you know you're a bad egg, right? So you're going to take responsibility for me, right? Nia Lingyu gently responded. Target's affection increased by 10. The system excitedly exclaimed, I can't believe you pulled it off. Host, you're amazing. Of course, haven't you heard the saying, life is like a play, all relies on acting? Seize the opportunity and press the advantage. If you start with a big move and have an indescribable relationship with the target right away, the affection level will surely skyrocket. Baiyu lowered his clothes. Lingyu, you don't remember? What a pity. He caressed Nia Lingyu's cheek. Then let's do it again, just like yesterday. That way, you'll remember, right? Baiyu is too seductive. The male lead won't be able to resist. What do you think Nia Lingyu will do? Using his acting skills, Baiyu successfully fooled Nia Lingyu. Now, he just needed something real. He leaned entirely into Nia Lingyu, thinking that no man could resist such an invitation. Completing the task right at the start feels awesome. He reached for Nia Lingyu's Adam's apple but was grabbed and pushed away by Nia Lingyu, who said, no, we just did it yesterday. I'm afraid your body can't handle it. Baiyu thought internally, what the hell? Who wants you to be tender-hearted now? He tackled Nia Lingyu. It's okay. Because it's you, I can handle it. Stop talking and don't waste my time completing the task. The system said, my lord, you have seriously violated the rules. The original character was a delicate little white flower, but you turned her into a man-eating flower, causing a severe collapse of the character. Baiyu was indifferent, so what if it collapses? As long as the strategy is successful. Baiyu took the initiative to kiss Nia Lingyu.
The system was freaking out in her mind. My lord, if you continue to violate the rules, it will cause the system to collapse and you will be severely punished.
What punishment could there be?
I'll just eat some plum candies.
Leave me alone.
The system was almost dying of anxiety. You will die in the system and never return to the real world again.
Baiyu suddenly stopped. What did you say? OMG, is it that terrible? Is the arrow already on the string and I have no choice but to release it? Can this stump me? It's just a little white flower.
I'll still make her throw herself at me. Baiyu leaned into Nie Lingyu's arms and cooed softly.
Nie Lingyu asked, what's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable?
With tears in her eyes, Baiyu said, no, just be gentle, okay?
I'm a bit scared.
Nie Lingyu comforted her, honey, we'll have plenty of opportunities in the future.
Don't force yourself.
Nie Lingyu stood up to get dressed, rest for a while.
I'll ask the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Baiyu was frustrated, that's not what I meant. After all this, you're still not coming on to me?
The system said, my lord, stay calm, you're the best.
Nie Lingyu left after closing the door.
Baiyu leaned on the bed thinking, since I can't collapse the character, it seems I need to redesign the strategy. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. The door was opened, and it turned out to be Baiyu's younger brother, Bai Lin.
Bro, I finally found you. Are you okay? Did Lingyu brother do anything to you last night? Bai Lin walked into the room.
Grasping Baiyu's hand, he said, I'm sorry, brother.
I really didn't know yesterday that you and Yao Fang's elopement would be caught by brother Lingyu. If I had known, I would have detained brother Lingyu for you, Baiyu.
Looking disdainfully, he thought, his acting is far worse than mine.
Bai Lin said, brother, I will definitely help you escape.
Baiyu looked at the cheap younger brother in front of him. It was you, kid, who leaked the news.
Now you come to play the good guy. Let's see how I deal with you. Suddenly, he saw the foot of the door. It's him. He was testing me. Baiyu started his act. Bai Lin, I was too foolish before, unable to see my own feelings clearly. Now, I just want to stay by Lingyu's side. Bai Lin was shocked. How is that possible? Brother, what's wrong with you? Didn't you like Yao Fang the most? And you've always been making a fuss about marrying him. Before, you even said that brother Lingyu was the most detestable person in the world. Nie Lingyu, listening at the door to their conversation, was about to explode. The butler behind him was shocked, thinking that this was going to lead to someone getting killed. Bai Lin continued, you said you'd rather be with a dog than with him. Nie Lingyu's expression turned extremely gloomy, his favorability plummeting. The system was nearly dying of anxiety. Help, the favorability is going to drop to nothing. Baiyu boasted impressively, what joke are you making? Lingyu is amazing. He's so awesome. How could I bear to leave him?
Nie Lingyu, hearing Baiyu's words, instantly brightened up, favorability increased by 30. The system was utterly admiring, host, you're too powerful.
Favorability has increased again. The power of that sentence is so great.
Of course, it concerns a man's dignity.
You don't understand. Bai Lin incredulously, what are you saying? You played poker with Lingyu? I'm literally fuming. They actually played poker. I've liked Nie Lingyu for so many years, seduced him in every way possible, but he never looked at me properly. He only has eyes for this idiot.
Baiyu continued, of course, you don't know how amazing Lingyu is. Bai Lin caught Baiyu's clothes in a good grip, caught. The clothes slid directly down, revealing the warm marks on the body. Baiyu, with tears in her eyes, said, it hurts so much.
It's all Lingyu's fault. He was too vigorous last night. My waist is about to break. Humph, I'll make you so angry.
Bai Lin looked at the marks on Baiyu's body and was about to go mad when suddenly the door was opened with a bang. Bai Lin turned his head and saw Nie Lingyu looking extremely happy. Then Nie Lingyu coldly said to him, you go out first.
And close the door behind you. Baiyu looked at Nie Lingyu, what's wrong with him? Did I do something wrong to upset you? Nie Lingyu grabbed a sheet and wrapped Baiyu in it. He hugged her tightly, your body is mine, only mine. Don't let others see. What is Nie Lingyu angry about?
Movie star Baiyu successfully fooled Nie Lingyu, and his cheap brother is about to die of anger.
Nie Lingyu possessively hugged Baiyu, your body is mine, don't let anyone else see it. Baiyu's heart raced rapidly. I was supposed to be the one wooing Nie Lingyu, so why does it feel like I'm the one being wooed?
Baiyu rested his hand on Nie Lingyu's chest, but Lin is my brother, he's not a stranger.
Plus, I'm a guy, it's normal for guys to show their bodies, right? Nie Lingyu bumped Baiyu's chin, do you want me to chain you up and keep you by my side? You are mine. Baiyu began to understand. It's no wonder the original host was so afraid of him and wanted to leave forever. After all, the original host was a delicate flower, vulnerable to the harsh elements, while I, even if a flower, am a bewitching one. Baiyu ripped off his own shirt, grabbed Nia Lingyu's tie, and said sadly, "If you talk to me in that tone again, I won't kiss you first anymore." Before Baiyu could react, Nia Lingyu pounced on him. "Anyway, others can't see." He kissed Baiyu's body. Baiyu responded, "Alright, I understand, I'll only let you see." Changing the subject, "I was just in the kitchen." Nia Lingyu's mood brightened. "Let's get up and have breakfast. I've instructed the kitchen to make your favorite dishes, and I bought you some new clothes. Want to try them on?" Nia Lingyu helped Baiyu dress, while Baiyu was internally frantic. What exactly is going on with him? Looking at himself in the mirror, he thought, I might as well wrap myself up like a zongzi. Smiling at Nia Lingyu, he said, "I really like it. Lingyu, can you go to the dining room and wait for me? I'll join you after I wash up." Nia Lingyu turned and left the room. Baiyu unbuttoned his shirt, took a handsome drag of his cigarette. "Oh my, such a handsome guy, it's a pity he can only be the bottom." Baiyu said to the system, "Is he not into it? I've been so proactive, yet he still didn't pounce on me." The system replied, "I bet the antagonist is definitely very capable." Baiyu also turned to leave. "Alright then, let's hurry so we don't keep the antagonist waiting." Just as Baiyu stepped out, he was cursed by Suya. "Slut. I heard you tried to seduce brother Nye again. Stay away from him." Baiyu rolled his eyes. "Move aside." Suya, in a fit of rage, tried to hit Baiyu. "Oh, you slut, you have some nerve to talk to me like that. Today, I'm going to show you how tough I am." Baiyu thought dealing with this crazy woman was really troublesome. How would Baiyu handle Suya? Just as Baiyu stepped out, he was blocked by Suya, who even tried to hit him. Before Suya could strike, Baiyu slapped her directly. Suya was stunned. That damn slut actually dared to hit me. Suya heard footsteps behind her. Brother Nya is coming at the perfect time. Watch how I deal with you, you little slut. Suya took off her watch and threw it into Baiyu's hand, pointing aggrievedly at Baiyu and said to Nya Lingyu, "Brother Nya, Baiyu stole my watch. I found out, and he even hit me. Brother Nya, you have to stand up for me. A servant who steals from the master shouldn't be kept." The system's eyes lit up. "Host, he's even more dramatic than you." Baiyu also became resolute. I've never lost in acting." Baiyu instantly spoke with tears in his eyes. "I know Miss Su doesn't like me. Lingyu, if you also dislike me, you can just send someone to drive me away. Forget it, I know you won't believe me. I'll leave on my own." The system hastily said, "Host, are you crazy? If you just leave, how are we supposed to win over the villain?" Baiyu walked up to Lingyu. "Lingyu, take care of yourself and eat well. Don't drink so much, it's bad for your health." Touching Nia Lingyu's chest, "If I'm not around, you must take care of yourself. Goodbye, Lingyu." After saying this, he turned and ran away. Suya secretly rejoiced. "I can't believe that just a few words from me could drive away this annoying guy. After all, a servant is just a servant and can never be equal to the master." Baiyu thought, "I'll count to 3, Nia Lingyu will definitely stop me. 1, 2, 3, as expected." Nia Lingyu immediately grabbed Baiyu's wrist and pulled him into his arms. Baiyu was stunned. "Did I ever say you could leave?" Baiyu pulled away from Nia Lingyu's hand. "But Miss Su doesn't like me. She also said I stole his watch." "I didn't." Baiyu was sobbing in Nia Lingyu's arms. Nia Lingyu turned around and questioned Suya. "You said Baiyu stole your watch. Do you have any evidence?" Suya said guiltily, but my watch is in his hand." "What other evidence is needed?" Nia Lingyu took the watch and said, "Now the watch is in my hand." "Are you saying that I stole your watch?" He threw the watch away. Nia Lingyu said in a bad tone. "Someone see the guest out," Suya said in disbelief. "Brother Nya," the man said. "Miss Su, this way please." Suya yelled, "Let me go. It was him who hit me." Nia Lingyu coldly said, "From now on, don't let unrelated people in anymore." Suya burst into tears. "Brother Nya, how can you keep such a villain? We grew up together. We've grown up together, how could you do this to me?" Nia Gich, her heart-wrenching cries didn't win Nia Lingyu's sympathy. Baiyula clung to Nia Lingyu's neck. "Lingyu, thank you for not driving me away." Baiyu's tears come as she speaks, truly worthy of the title Best Actor. "I was so afraid you'd drive me away just now," Nia Lingyu said gently. "Don't be afraid, I'm here. Truly a boyfriend full of strength. Don't cry, it hurts my heart." He kissed her tears away, wishing he could kiss all the tears dry. "You belong to me alone, no one can take you away from me." How could Suya possibly compete with Baiyu, this little white lotus? Ha ha. Nya Lingyu directly drove her out. It's hard for Nya Lingyu to imagine what else could happen when he's not around. However, Baiyu didn't mind at all, even reaching out to hug Nya Lingyu's neck. Lingyu, as long as you don't drive me away, I won't leave you. Nya Lingyu's pupils suddenly dilated, unable to control himself anymore. He pulled Baiyu tightly into his arms. You are mine, both body and soul. He leaned down and kissed her. The little confused one watched everything in front of him, dumbfounded, hardly believing his own eyes. His favorability soared as Baiyu and Nya Lingyu kissed, inseparable. Suddenly, an inconsiderate little thing kept buzzing in his ear. Baiyu really wanted to hit someone. Can't you see I'm busy? Don't bother me. If you keep bothering me, I'll apply to change systems. The little confused one looked at him pitifully. Host is so rough, not far away. Lin watched everything in front of him, about to explode with anger. Suya is indeed cunning, but her brother is even more cunning than her. Who knew that this time, by some turn of events, it made Nya Lingyu even more infatuated with Baiyu. Lin gritted his teeth tightly. No, he absolutely cannot sit and wait for death. That afternoon, Lin took Baiyu to a hotel while Nya Lingyu was away. Bro, it's here. Yao Feng is waiting for you inside. In order to eliminate the gap between himself and the antagonist, he was trying to clear up his relationship with Yao Feng. Unexpectedly, Lin helped him by delivering the opportunity. Lin gave Baiyu a candy with added ingredients and told him to eat it. Baiyu said he would eat it after they got to the room. Then he opened the door. Without even seeing Yao Feng, he heard the sound of water flowing from the bathroom. So impatient. Xiaoyu, wait for me a bit. I'll be done soon. Yao Feng's voice followed. Baiyu looked at the bathroom door with a face full of disdain. This man really is impatient, taking a bath before anyone even arrived. Baiyu looked around. The room was decorated romantically and warmly, with rose petals scattered on the bed. Baiyu couldn't help but exclaim, wow, this place is amazing. Stop being happy. I can sense the antagonist right at the door. Think about what to do quickly. Little confusion is about to die of anxiety. Baiyu smiled cunningly, not worried at all. What's there to be anxious about? I'm just waiting for him to come. Then he took out the candy Lin gave him and ate it. As it went down, a blush involuntarily appeared on Baiyu's face. Even his eyes became misty. Rarely did Lin prepare so thoroughly. Even if the antagonist can't do it today, I'm going to get him into bed here. Yao Feng had just walked out of the bathroom and saw Baiyu sitting on the bed. Yao Feng became completely excited, as if he had been injected with adrenaline. Baiyu was always beautiful, but now, with just one look, she could take his soul away. Yao Feng directly grabbed Baiyu's slender leg. Come over to your brother. Today, your brother will take good care of you. Yet, Baiyu just gave Yao Feng a contemptuous look and warned him directly, Yao Feng, don't touch me. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Yao Feng felt like he was about to be enchanted to death by this little vixen in front of him. Baby, if I don't touch you, I'll be the one regretting it. Saying so, Yao Feng lunged towards Baiyu and tore her clothes open. Everyone was anxiously panicking when suddenly, a loud bang erupted. The door was kicked open forcefully by Nya Lingyu. Seeing the newcomer was Nya Lingyu, Yao Feng trembled all over with fear and quickly started begging for mercy. Nya Lingyu clenched his teeth tightly, and with a face full of malice, he walked over to Yao Feng and grabbed his throat. You dared to lay a hand on my person? Just as Yao Feng was about to force himself on Baiyu, the room's door was kicked open by Nya Lingyu. Grabbing Yao Feng's throat, Nya Lingyu looked at Baiyu on the bed, her cheeks flushed unnaturally, looking in immense pain, even her breathing seemed more rapid than usual. Nya Lingyu's grip on Yao Feng's neck tightened. What did you do to her? Yao Feng hurriedly explained, nothing at all. Nya Lingyu then flung Yao Feng away with a throw. I'll settle this account with you later. Even if my heart is filled with raging fury, Baiyu is much more important than Yao Feng at this moment. Nya Lingyu hurriedly picks up Baiyu. Baiyu's cheeks are red, looking both tempting and pitiful. Lingyu, I feel terrible. Xiao Mihua is almost dying of anxiety watching the affection level plummet. Baiyu reassures Xiao Mihua in his heart, don't worry, it'll all come back soon. Clearly not convinced, Xiao Mihua thinks, just you watch. Baiyu then rips open his own clothes, revealing his chest, utterly enchanting. Baiyu looks at him pitifully, with tears welling up in his eyes. Lingyu, I'm so hot, I feel so bad. Don't be afraid, I'll take you to the hospital, Nya Lingyu says, preparing to lift Baiyu from the bed. Inside, Baiyu feels a stampede of frustration.
He's already playing the seduction card this far, yet the villain remains unmoved.
Bai Yu grabs Nia Lingyu by the neck.
His sweet, soft lips then unexpectedly pressed against Nia Lingyu's. Nia Lingyu's voice is hoarse to the extreme. Be good, I'll take you to the hospital. Bai Yu looks at him with moist eyes.
Lingyu, I won't go to the hospital. I feel so bad. Save me, will you?
Hearing Bai Yu say this, Nia Lingyu feels his mind explode, hardly able to think.
If he refuses now, could he even consider himself a man?
The two of them instantly entangle like lightning striking the earth, completely ignoring Bai Lin's shouts outside the door.
An hour later, Bai Yu was practically questioning his life. Wasn't the villain supposed to be impotent? But who was this brutal person who nearly took half his life? Damn it, who could endure such brutality?
Bai Yu finally shared an intimate moment with Nia Lingyu, which totally wore him out. Little Muddle looked at him with a face full of schadenfreude, his words brimming with pride.
I told you, there's no way the villain could be impotent. He's the most powerful being in this world.
Bai Yu listened to Little Muddle's words speechlessly, really wanting to beat him to death.
But, however, he has sacrificed so much already. This time, the villain should be satisfied, right?
Bai Yu looked forward expectantly, waiting for the increase in favorability.
Bai Yu was getting impatient. Xiao Mihua, where is my increase in favorability?
Bai Yu asked eagerly, what good side?
The system said nonchalantly, at least, you had your fun, didn't you?
Bai Yu was completely exasperated.
Get lost. Nia Lingyu stood up, smiling at Bai Yu. Good morning, baby.
Bai Yu looked at Nia Lingyu with a mournful face.
He's so miserable. His little chrysanthemum is almost becoming a sunflower. And in the end, the favorability didn't even increase.
Nia Lingyu caressed Bai Yu's face, finding the person in front of him even sweeter than he imagined. It felt addictive with just one touch, and he couldn't stop.
Nia Lingyu gently kissed Bai Yu's earlobe.
His eyes unconsciously narrowed. He really wanted to lock him up, chain him to his own bed, and keep him for himself alone. Thinking this, Nia Lingyu's phone suddenly rang.
Xiaoyu, I have to go out and meet with a client. I will have someone come to pick you up later.
Bai Yu hugged Nia Lingyu from behind, saying mournfully, you just leave after having your fill.
And now you're going to accompany someone else. You don't love me at all. Nia Lingyu was stunned for a moment.
So, his little one didn't want him to accompany others.
Was this jealousy?
Xiao Mihu excitedly said, host's favorability has increased.
With just one sentence, it actually increased by 10 points. Host, you're really amazing.
Bai Yu's mouth twitched. If I'd known that saying a few words could earn me so much favorability, why did I work so hard?
I'm about to fall apart.
Listening to Bai Yu's jealous remarks, Nia Lingyu felt a wave of tenderness. She would take the initiative to kiss him and would feel jealous because he was going to accompany someone else. It was like a dream, he was so happy. Nia Lingyu couldn't help but brush Bai Yu's cheek, gently wiping away the tears at the corners of her eyes.
Don't cry, baby, it makes me heartbroken. How could I not love you? He dominantly pried open Bai Yu's teeth. He kissed her deeply, as if trying to merge her into his own bones and blood, never getting enough of the kiss. Reluctantly, Nia Lingyu said to Bai Yu, Xiaoyu, be good. I'll be back soon.
Bai Yu felt a bit deflated hearing Nia Lingyu was leaving.
Then go ahead. Have someone come to get me later. Bai Yu's anger hadn't subsided. Annoying villain, taking everything without leaving any favorability points. I'm really pissed off. Nia Lingyu's dark eyes dimmed.
He hugged Bai Yu tightly and said in a low voice, never mind.
You come with me.
Although he didn't want anyone to see his treasure, he couldn't bear Bai Yu being upset.
Bai Yu looked reluctant. When did he ever say he wanted to go?
Just as he was about to refuse, he suddenly heard Xiao Mihu's excited voice, wow, host, favorability increased by another 5 points. A gleam flashed in Bai Yu's eyes. He wrapped his arms around Nia Lingyu's neck, and his sweet voice followed, Lingyu, you are the best.
Let's go together.
As long as the villain knows I have him in my heart, the favorability will definitely increase.
If direct approach doesn't work, then use wits. Do you want to see how Bai Yu uses his wits?
After going through trials and tribulations together, Nia Lingyu couldn't bear to leave Bai Yu alone. So, he planned to take Bai Yu with him to meet a client.
Nia Lingyu's meeting place was at a nightclub. In fact, many people in the business world mix pleasure with business.
When Nia Lingyu and Bai Yu arrived at the nightclub's private room,
everyone in the room held their breath upon seeing Bai Yu.
Bai Yu, standing timidly by Nia Lingyu's side, was in the most inconspicuous corner.
Yet, he unavoidably caught everyone's attention. From the moment Nie Lingyu's client saw Bai Yu, he was completely captivated. What more business could he talk about? All he wanted was to possess the person before him. Bai Yu, smoking outside, might as well have been catching up on sleep at home. So boring. Suddenly, a bald client grabbed Bai Yu. Beautiful, how much did Nie Lingyu pay you? I'll double it. Come spend the night with me. As he said this, he moved his alcohol-laden breath closer to Bai Yu. People wanting to take advantage of Bai Xiaoya haven't been born yet. Bai Yu pushed the bald man away. Are you sure you want me to accompany you? But I doubt you can afford the compensation I want, beautiful. In desperation, he reached out his hand toward Bai Yu's face. Really? What if I want your life? There was a hint of devilishness in his eyes as he grabbed the customer's chin, gently lifting his head. To be told by such a pretty little thing that he wanted his life, the customer couldn't help but laugh. However, in the next second, Bai Yu punched the bald man hard in the stomach. A burst of pain swept through his body instantly, and the intense pain in his stomach made him sit down on the ground. Bai Yu, smoking a cigarette, stepped closer to the bald man. The bald man was already scared and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, I was confused. I will never dare again. Bai Yu, seeing the customer laugh even more happily, pressed the cigarette butt onto the bald man's head. Suddenly, Nie Lingyu's voice came from behind. Bai Yu shivered, and the voice of Xiao Mihu instantly rang in Bai Yu's ears. Host, you forgot, I am currently a delicate little white flower. If the villain sees me hitting someone, then I'll be out of character, see. Bai Yu turned and threw himself into Nie Lingyu's arms, instantly squeezing out a few tears. Lingyu, he bullied me. I don't want to live. As he spoke, he burrowed into Nie Lingyu's arms, crying so sadly. He said he wants me to accompany him tonight, he even touched me. I'm really scared. Lingyu, if you hadn't come, would I have been defiled by this beast? The customer watched Bai Yu in disbelief, while the bald man desperately shook his head, saying, he's lying. Bai Yu turned around and glared at him fiercely. Did you ever say you wanted me to accompany you? And why would I slander you? I didn't even know you before. But Bai Yu didn't expect that his words would immediately cause Nie Lingyu's dark value to soar. He kicked the bald guy's head. You want him to accompany you tonight? Nie Lingyu gritted his teeth, barely suppressing the fury in his heart. You dare to touch my man? He grabbed the customer's collar and lifted him up. In this world, besides him, no one could touch Bai Yu. Nie Lingyu punched the bald guy's face repeatedly. Nie Lingyu repeatedly punches the bald man's face. The voice of Little Dizzy comes, oh no, the villain is turning dark. How do you think Bai Yu should stop Nie Lingyu from turning dark? Episode 10. The bald man wants to possess Bai Yu. Bai Yu wants to practice on him. Nie Lingyu comes over. To keep up appearances, he cries to Nie Lingyu about how the bald man bullied him. But because of a single sentence, Nie Lingyu turns dark and starts hitting the bald customer very hard. Just one punch leaves the customer's face bloody. Little Dizzy's voice keeps ringing in Bai Yu's head. Host, I feel the villain is turning dark. This can't go on. We must quickly stop him. Bai Yu frowns as well. He didn't expect that just that would so infuriate Nie Lingyu. This person's possessiveness over him has gone beyond imagination. By now, a crowd has gathered around, including the nightclub's security guards, but seeing Nie Lingyu like this, not one of them dares to step forward to stop him. Bai Yu rushes forward and grabs Nie Lingyu's arm. Lingyu, stop hitting him. But Nie Lingyu seems to have lost all reason and simply can't stop. Moreover, the people from Nie Lingyu's private room come out to mock coldly. They think, who does he think he is? Just a light word, and he wants Nie Lingyu to stop. Bai Yu tightly holds onto Nie Lingyu's arm. With a shout, Nie Lingyu, if you keep this up, I'm going to be scared. The hall became quiet instantly. Bai Yu's words pierced Nie Lingyu's heart like a needle. Since he was very young, he showed a tendency towards violence unlike other kids. Almost everyone was afraid of him. Only Bai Yu was not afraid of him, always sweetly calling him Brother Lingyu. Thus, for Nie Lingyu, Bai Yu was like a savior. But somehow, their relationship began to change, and even Bai Yu started to fear him and even dislike him. As he grew up, he gained power and influence, and countless people began to flatter him, but everything had already changed. Yet, the only person he still wanted was Bai Yu. Regaining his composure, Nie Lingyu pulled Bai Yu tightly into his embrace. Bai Yu, don't be afraid of me. The thing he feared most in this world was Bai Yu being afraid of him. Bai Yu sighed softly, thankful that the villain hadn't continued to turn darker. He lifted his eyes and smiled at Nie Lingyu. How could I be afraid of you? It's just that the person was too tough. I was afraid it hurt your hand. Nie Lingyu was shocked, unable to believe that he really wasn't afraid of him.
Episode 11, Bai successfully prevents Nielingyu from turning evil. He looks carefully at Nielingyu's hands and says with heartache, "How did you get hurt so badly?" He quickly asks a waiter to bring some paper. At this moment, the waiter hands Bai a handkerchief, saying, "Use this to wipe your hands." Bai carefully wipes Nielingyu's hands. Then he notices the waiter, who is looking at Nielingyu eagerly, even his eyes sparkling with light. Bai's pupils suddenly constrict. Isn't this the young man who, in the original storyline, was used as a substitute after the original protagonist died and was eventually killed by Nielingyu? Now this young protagonist is looking at the villain with such eyes. Could it be that he has fallen for the villain? That won't do. The villain is his alone. He still needs the villain to gain favorability. He won't let anyone else have the villain. He grabs Nielingyu's hand and heads outside. But he doesn't notice that Nielingyu's eyes have darkened a bit. As soon as they get home, Nielingyu locks the door. "Lingyu, what are you doing?" Bai feels that something is off with the person in front of him. His little confused system also reminds him, "Host, the villain's darkening value has increased again." Bai frowns, "What's going on?" "I just stopped him from turning dark." However, before Bai can react, Nielingyu grabs his wrist and pins him against the wall. "Lingyu, what's wrong with you? Xiaoyu, why can't your eyes only look at me?" Nielingyu tightly wrapped his hands around Bai's waist, desperately kissing him. Bai reached out to hold Nielingyu. Even though he didn't know what was wrong with him, he could still feel Nielingyu's deep unease. Then, Bai heard Nielingyu's voice commandingly rise, "You can't stare at others like that in the future, nor can you, do you understand?" Nielingyu said seriously, even with a hint of warning in his eyes. Bai was stunned before he realized that he had looked at that young man a couple of times in the nightclub because he felt familiar, and then smiled politely at him when he handed him a handkerchief. Because of that waiter, he actually got jealous. So, this was the reason the villain lord got angry. Bai couldn't help but laugh. He grabbed Nielingyu, and then fiercely kissed his cheek, whispering to the little confused one in his heart, "Watch me perform. Get ready to receive a good impression, huh?" Then, Bai directly counterattacked, pinning Nielingyu underneath him. "It was clearly you who kept staring at that person. I only looked because of you. How can you accuse me like this?" Nielingyu frowned, "When did I stare at others? It's you. Didn't you see that young boy's gaze?" His eyes were practically popping out. "That's why I glared at him," Bai said while snuggling into Nielingyu's embrace. "I don't like the way he looks at you, as if he wants to steal you away from me. Lingyu, you are mine alone. Do you think you could ever fall for that boy?" Nielingyu chuckled softly, his heart filled with tenderness. "You fool, how could I ever fancy someone so unattractive? With you here, how could there be anyone else in my eyes?" Then, the two began a segment not suitable for children, and the affection level started to rise steadily. After a night of passion, the affection level spiked by 15 points, reaching 80 directly. It was simply unbelievable. The confused little one excitedly said to Bai, "Host, you are simply amazing." Bai's eyes instantly lit up, helping him up, claiming he could go another 500 rounds. Nielingyu held the now sleeping Bai, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes. In just a few days, 3 men had appeared beside Bai. These people were like flies, swarming around Bai, causing him extreme disgust. He no longer wanted to leave Bai outside, he wanted to confine him, to have him exist in a world where only he himself was present. Whether through surveillance or tracking, any means were acceptable. All he wanted was for Bai to belong solely to him from now on. The next day, Bai leisurely sat in a hanging chair, reading a book. As the saying goes, you reap what you sow. Although he wasn't the one who sowed, he was the land being cultivated. Anyway, it's all the same, he still got the harvest. At this moment, the land hurriedly ran to Bai's side. "Brother, something happened to Yao Feng." Seeing how Nielingyu treated that client yesterday, he knew Nielingyu would not let Yao Feng off. However, Bai still pretended to be surprised. "Really? Is it true?" "Brother, Yao Feng got beaten up." Yao Feng was beaten, and the person who hit him was ruthless. "If this continues, Yao Feng will be beaten to death." Bai looked very anxious and wanted to find Yao Feng. Bai Lin thoughtfully hailed a cab. A trace of malevolence flashed in Bai Lin's eyes. He planned to inform Nielingyu as soon as Bai got into the taxi. With concern, the confused one said, "Host, are you really going?" "Don't worry about that annoying passerby." As soon as Bai left, Bai Lin immediately sent a message to Nielingyu that Bai was going to leave with Yao Feng. Nielingyu stared motionlessly at the message, his eyes filled with darkness. These days, Bai kept telling him about love and that he would never leave him. Yet, as soon as something happened to Yao Feng, he rushed over impatiently. Nia Lingyu forcefully crushed the wineglass in his hand. Just yesterday, Baiyu was still concerned whether hitting someone hurt his hand, and now his own hand hurt more.
And where are you?
The bodyguard watched him timidly.
Boss, do we need to bring him back? No need. He has already taken control of Yaofeng.
This time, he wanted to see what kind of excuses Baiyu would come up with. Indeed, Baiyu got into the taxi, but he didn't go to see Yaofeng.
Instead, he went to the city center.
At this moment, Baiyu was enthusiastically picking out ties for Nia Lingyu. However, compared to Baiyu's leisure, the confused one was incredibly anxious.
I sense that the villain's darkening value is skyrocketing.
If you don't go back soon, he will truly become dark.
What about the favorability?
Compared to the darkening value, Baiyu was more concerned about the favorability. The little confused one had a face of reluctance. Surprisingly, it didn't drop.
What's going on here?
That's because the favorability exceeded 80, and the original favorability turned into love. Once in love, it doesn't drop so easily.
It seems that the villain has really fallen in love with him.
Baiyu felt a slight pain in his heart. However, although the villain has fallen in love with him, he still has no trust in him at all. At this rate, the favorability will never reach 100. So, he has to take extreme measures.
When Baiyu returned, it was already dark. He turned on the light and saw Nia Lingyu sitting on the sofa.
He took out the gift he had chosen for Nia Lingyu and showed a sweet smile on his face.
Lingyu, I bought you a gift.
Take a look, do you like it?
Nia Lingyu didn't even bother to open it and directly threw the gift bag on the floor.
Baiyu felt a bit hurt.
Lingyu, what are you doing?
I spent the whole afternoon picking it out.
How could you throw it away?
Nia Lingyu's eyes were full of mockery.
He didn't believe it at all.
Roughly grabbing Baiyu's wrist, he pressed him down.
What is Nia Lingyu trying to do?
Nia Lingyu thought Baiyu had betrayed him again. Not listening to Baiyu's explanation, he directly pressed him down. Nia Lingyu's eyes were as if they were poisoned.
Baiyu, just because you've been in my bed, you think you can go to others? Am I not enough for you? Baiyu silently closed his eyes, enduring the immense pain in his body.
He knew it would anger him, but when he heard Nia Lingyu using such vicious language to insult him, Baiyu's heart ached fiercely. Although their time together was not very long, they had their sweet moments. Although Baiyu knew that the antagonist wouldn't believe him, he still harbored a glimmer of hope.
But Nia Lingyu didn't trust him at all.
Nia Lingyu looked at the person lying on the bed with a cold expression, filled with reluctant anger, wondering just how many times he had taken him. It wasn't until Baiyu completely passed out that he stopped. Indeed, he shouldn't have given Baiyu any freedom. Starting today, he would not let Baiyu leave this room at all. Baiyu opened his eyes. In fact, he hadn't passed out at all. It was just that the antagonist was too brutal. If he didn't pretend to faint, he would really be tormented to death.
Xiaomihua, looking at Baiyu's state, couldn't help crying. Host, do you hurt? The antagonist was so brutal, it scared me stupid. Don't worry, Baiyu laughed. Look at you, you were already quite foolish.
If you get any sillier, I might really need to request a system change. Everything was within his expectations, but it still hurt when it actually happened. Soon, Nia Lingyu will know the truth, and everything will start to turn around.
At that moment, the door to the room was suddenly opened again.
Bai Lin looked at Baiyu with a smug face, yet pretending to be concerned.
Brother, what's wrong?
Baiyu looked straight at him, his face scornful.
Why did I anger Nia Lingyu? You know best, don't you? Brother, what are you talking about? How would I know?
Afterwards, they verbally abused Baiyu. However, Baiyu could endure it, but Xiaomihu could not.
Host, how can he curse you like that? Go and beat him up. It's okay, Xiaomihu. He probably doesn't know his end is near.
Let him feel proud for a few more minutes.
Although we can indeed beat him, wouldn't it be more interesting to let him log off in despair?
In the living room, Nia Lingyu sat with a grim expression. A bodyguard hurried in and said, I just checked the route of the taxi Mr. Bai took. He did not go to Yaofeng's house.
Nia Lingyu's pupils suddenly constricted. What did you say? We checked the roadside surveillance. Mr. Bai left the downtown area and then spent an entire afternoon in his shop choosing a tie.
Later, we asked the shop assistant, who said that Mr. Bai wanted to buy a gift for someone he liked, and he used all his savings.
Nia Lingyu's heart suddenly ached.
He could imagine the emotions with which Baiyu had bought this gift for himself. Even the gift that Baiyu bought with all his savings was discarded by him like trash. Just before he had insulted Baiyu so brutally, Nia Lingyu felt endless regret in his heart. No wonder Bai Yu used to dislike him so much and wanted to leave him. Now, he even disliked himself. Nie Lingyu suddenly ran towards the room where Bai Yu was staying. In the room, Bai Lin was still continuously cursing at Bai Yu. Bai Yu, lying on the bed, simply ignored him. Who knew this person would still stubbornly refuse to leave? Xiaomihu excitedly said, "Host, I sense that the villain has already reached the door of the room, and his dark value is plummeting, having dropped to 50 already. It seems the misunderstanding has already been cleared." Good, Bai Yu nodded, responding to Xiaomihu in his mind. It's his turn to take the stage now. Unauthorized, 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 unauthorized. Bai Yu knew that Nie Lingyu had already arrived. Her expression changed immediately, sitting on the bed with tearful eyes, murmuring to herself. Bai Yu's voice was filled with painful resentment, and her tears seemed unable to hold back anymore, dropping down one by one. Bai Lin kept insulting Bai Yu. If Bai Yu had the sense to leave on her own, that would be best. Otherwise, she shouldn't blame him for using some methods. Bai Yu's eyes looked towards the bedside. There lay the gift bag casually discarded by Nie Lingyu. Bai Yu silently reached out, took it, and held the gift bag in her arms. She looked truly aggrieved and pitiful. However, Bai Yu's action of getting the gift bag clearly caught Bai Lin's attention. "What are you holding in your hand?" Bai Yu said anxiously. "Give it back to me. It's a gift I was going to give to Lingyu." Bai Yu's words were a mistake. As soon as she spoke them, Bai Lin's heart was filled with even more hatred. He directly tore the gift bag to shreds. He threw the tie that was inside onto the ground and stomped on it with his foot. Bai Lin's arrogance was simply unbearable. He didn't notice the flash of coldness in Bai Yu's eyes. Just then, the door of the room was kicked open with a bang. Bai Lin turned his head in surprise and saw Nie Lingyu standing there with an extremely gloomy expression. Bai Lin's face showed some excitement as he called out, "Brother Lingyu." However, in the next second, Nie Lingyu, like a madman, abruptly threw Bai Lin out. He didn't even know that in this family, Bai Yu was in such a situation that even anyone could bully and even expel him. Nie Lingyu used to hate why Bai Yu couldn't see him, hate why he was desperately trying to leave. It was only now that Nie Lingyu understood why. Even Bai Yu's own brother treated him like this. What about others? Bai Yu looked so weak, no wonder he wanted to leave so much. Lingyu reached out to touch Bai Yu, but Bai Yu instinctively stepped back. Nie Lingyu's trembling hand froze in midair. He wanted to tell Bai Yu not to be afraid of him, that he wouldn't treat him that way anymore. However, before he could say anything, he saw Bai Yu's tear-filled eyes staring straight at him. Bai Yu's low voice followed, "Lingyu, don't drive me away. I have nowhere else to go." He curled himself into a ball, trembling, looking helpless and pitiable. "If you don't want me to stay here, let me stay in the basement," he said. Bai Yu's voice was already trembling. Every word he said was like a needle piercing Nie Lingyu's heart. Nie Lingyu pulled Bai Yu into his arms. "Xiaoyu, I'm sorry. I thought you went to see Yao Feng." Bai Yu timidly said, I don't want to see him anymore. It makes you unhappy." Boom. Nie Lingyu felt as if his heart was being heavily struck. That feeling is really painful. Little Dimwit's voice sounded inappropriately. Current favorability 90. Only 10 left to complete the task. But why does it still feel so sad? Although the misunderstanding has been clarified and everything is within his plan, Nie Lingyu's distrust of him is real, and Qinli's grievance is real too. How could he use the word grievance? He is just here to do a task. What does it matter how the villain is? Thinking this way, Ziyu did not push away from Nie Lingyu's embrace for a long time. Perhaps this broad embrace was too warm, which made him somewhat reluctant to leave. Nie Lingyu inadvertently saw the tie already destroyed on the ground. He quickly picked up the tie from the ground. "Is this the gift you gave me?" Bai Yu hurriedly snatched the tie from Nie Lingyu's hand, and hid it behind himself. "I know you don't like this thing. I'll throw it away later." Little Dimwit exclaimed, "Host, isn't this the gift you were going to give to the villain? Why throw it away? We picked it out all afternoon." "Fool, this is called advancing by retreating. I want him to feel even more guilty." Just as Bai Yu was about to throw it away, Nie Lingyu grabbed his wrist. "Who said I don't like it? I love it. Look." Nie Lingyu quickly put the tie around his neck. "Look." Nie Lingyu knows he was wrong. He pulled Bai Yu's hand and kissed it. "Forgive me, okay?" The big puppy has also learned to act cute. Even though the villain is really annoying and bullies him like that, he still has to use the villain to complete the task. Forget it, let's forgive him for now. Seeing Bai Yu break into a smile, Nie Lingyu finally felt relieved. Bai Yu tidied up Nie Lingyu's tie, seemingly trying to smooth out the wrinkles on it. From this angle, Nie Lingyu looked down and saw that Baiyu's buttons were not properly fastened, revealing a beautiful scene. A red kiss mark was faintly visible inside, clearly left by him earlier. Nie Lingyu's heart raced, his large hand caressing Baiyu's slender waist. His fingertip lightly brushed Baiyu's most sensitive spot, making him let out a soft moan. He pressed Baiyu down under him. Xiaoyu, do you know there's another use for a tie? Nie Lingyu took off his tie and looped it around Baiyu's hands, over and over. For example, it can be used to tie you up like this. His fingers grasped Baiyu's slender wrists, rubbing them against the tie. Nie Lingyu's sexy voice rang in Ziyuji's ear. Baby, I really love the gift you gave me, especially using it on yourself. The two had a joyful night together. Finally, Nie Lingyu's favorability increased by 1 point. Previously, just saying anything could increase it by 20 points, but now, after being tormented all night, it only increased by 1 point. He's such a miser. Unaware that Nie Lingyu was beside him, Baiyu cursed directly, this damn dog. What did you say? Nie Lingyu looked at the person in front of him with a smile. Baiyu, looking at Nie Lingyu, was sweating profusely, almost breaking his persona. No, today is the shopping festival carnival. What I meant to say was shopping. Let's go have fun together. Nie Lingyu stared at him with wide eyes, motionless, his heart pounding non-stop. So, is this what they call a date? Baiyu thought Nie Lingyu didn't want to go since he didn't react for a long time. Just when he was about to say, let's forget it then, he heard the system excitedly beep, target's favorability +2. Baiyu looked at Nie Lingyu with a forced smile. Now, just saying anything is worth 2 points. What is going on? Baiyu felt like his brain was about to explode. After such a hard night, working from evening till dawn, he only gained 1 favorability point. He really wanted to crack open his head to see what kind of wiring was inside. Look at how his mind works. Nie Lingyu kissed him forcefully. Okay, baby, just wait for me, I'll be right back. Baiyu's face immediately flushed red. Baiyu had already finished washing up and was sitting in the living room waiting, having waited for over 2 hours without ever seeing Nie Lingyu. The family butler looked at him with some sympathy. What kind of person is our master? He's the president of the prestigious Nie Corporation. How could he possibly go shopping with you, a servant? However, just at that moment, Nie Lingyu suddenly appeared, suited up, walking out from the bedroom, clearly well dressed, his hair neatly combed back in a faint, pleasant scent emanating from him, making his handsome face look even more striking. Baiyu was outright dazzled. Sorry, Baiyu, today is our first date, so I dressed up a bit. Didn't keep you waiting too anxiously, did I? Baiyu smiled and shook his head. No, you look great. Then let's go, they said, holding hands as they left the house. During their date, Nie Lingyu proposed to Baiyu. They first went to the amusement park to ride the roller coasters, then went shopping in the mall, just like any ordinary couple, and afterward, Nie Lingyu took Baiyu to eat his favorite food. They joyfully spent the entire day together, Nie Lingyu looking at Baiyu, feeling a warmth in his heart. He didn't buy him anything expensive, just some small things, but these made him so happy. This first date was truly a moment to remember. He wanted to make it an unforgettable memory for him and Baiyu. Nie Lingyu took Baiyu on the Ferris wheel. Here you can see the beautiful night view of the city. At this moment, Baiyu is sitting on the Ferris wheel, looking at Nie Lingyu kneeling on one knee in front of her. He is holding a diamond ring in his hand. Nie Lingyu proposed. She was just here for a mission, she never thought about getting married. Her heart kept pounding, inexplicably feeling a bit nervous. Xiaoyu, will you marry me? Nie Lingyu's eyes were filled with boundless passion. Baiyu stared blankly at everything in front of her, not answering for a long time. The little confused one anxiously said, Host, quickly agree to him, then the mission will be completed. If the mission is successful, will I leave this world? If I'm not here, what will happen to him? That's not something the host should worry about. Baiyu's hand, which was about to take the ring, suddenly hesitated. She unconsciously looked out the window. The brilliant fireworks filling the sky were really beautiful, specially prepared for her by Nie Lingyu. But to Baiyu, it seemed incredibly silly. Nie Lingyu wasn't just proposing to her, he was also announcing to the world that she was the only one in his heart from beginning to end. For some reason, she went from eagerly wanting to complete the mission to now not wanting to complete it so quickly. Baiyu slowly reached out her hand. She took the ring from Nie Lingyu's hand and put it on. The ring was very beautiful. Thank you. So, Xiaoyu, Nie Lingyu looked extremely excited. Does this mean you are willing to marry me? Ding. Target's affection +2. Current progress, 95%. Host, keep it up, agree to him, and the mission will be completed. Baiyu gently touched Nie Lingyu's face.
I can't marry you yet.
Hearing Bai Yu's words, Nie Lingyu's eyes darkened slightly.
Are you still angry with me about what happened before?
Bai Yu moved closer into Nie Lingyu's arms.
No, Lingyu, I just haven't dated you enough yet.
Nie Lingyu, holding Bai Yu, blamed himself deeply, thinking it must be because he had hurt him too deeply before that he couldn't agree yet. I must treat him even better in the future and earn his complete trust. Meanwhile, Bai Yu thought, just 1 more month, and then I'll tell him I am willing to marry him.
Lingyu, let's go down, said Bai Yu, as if nothing had happened, taking Nie Lingyu's hand and walking down from the Ferris wheel. Unexpectedly, as soon as they opened the door of the Ferris wheel, the entrance was crowded with reporters.
Congratulations, Mr. Nie, on your successful proposal, they said, as no one thought Bai Yu would refuse Nie Lingyu, and congratulatory voices came one after another.
Not far away,
Bai Lin clenched his teeth in anger, filled with resentment and anger.
Do I really have to watch Bai Yu be happy like this? Impossible. I still have some tricks up my sleeve.
Bai Lin, along with a group of people, came to intercept Bai Yu.
Bai Yu was already not in a good mood. Good, I'm in a bad mood today, and these people are perfect to vent my anger on.
In this situation, unless they use guns at close range, there's nothing Bai Yu is afraid of.
However, Bai Yu had just thought this.
Then, Bai Lin took out a gun from his pocket and pointed it at his own head, with a twisted smile on his face.
Fists can't beat bullets, huh?
Inside the car, Bai Yu closed his eyes to rest, while Xiao Mihu was anxiously urging Bai Yu to think of a plan quickly.
Don't worry, that damned Nie Lingyu will definitely catch up. Just wait and see. Xiao Mihu was completely panicked.
He immediately sensed and found that the villain's corruption value had started to plummet, and the distance between him and them was also gradually closing.
He should catch up soon.
Bai Yu was furious. Even though Nie Lingyu had caught up, the anguish and bitterness in his heart did not disappear at all.
He couldn't forgive that annoying guy. The car soon arrived at the destination, an abandoned factory.
Bai Lin dragged him into the factory, and Mr. Wang had been waiting there for a long time.
As soon as he saw Bai Yu, his entire being blossomed with joy. My little treasure, you finally arrived. Ah, how can you tie up my little treasure like this?
While speaking, Mr. Wang touched Bai Yu's face with his finger. Bai Yu's face was exquisitely beautiful, captivating anyone who looked at him. Mr. Wang couldn't wait to tear off Bai Yu's clothes. While tearing, he said to his subordinates, after I've had enough, I'll share him with you. I want to record all of this and send it to Nie Lingyu, let him enjoy it as well.
As soon as Mr. Wang spoke, the eyes of those subordinates all lit up.
Bai Yu gently narrowed his eyes. Even at the cost of losing this body and failing the mission, he couldn't let himself be humiliated like this. He exerted force suddenly, but the original owner's body was too weak to withstand such power. As soon as he exerted force, his wrist was covered in blood, the wires snapped one by one, mixed with his flesh in immense pain, until all the wires broke with a snap. Bai Yu clenched his fingers instantly and threw a fierce punch at his stomach. Even though Bai Yu broke free from the wires, his wrist was already deeply lacerated, a messy blur of blood and flesh, with countless blood flowing from his wrist. There, constantly billowing out, even if President Wang was beaten down, at this moment, Bai Yu was clearly at the end of his strength. The immense pain in his wrist almost made him unable to stand straight. President Wang, in pain, covered his stomach, where it hurt unbearably. Despite having so many people around him, and having tied up Bai Yu in advance, seeing Bai Yu step by step walking towards him, he still didn't believe in evil and directly ordered his underlings to teach him a lesson.
On my turf, let's see if he can still be tough. Can Nie Lingyu dare to come rescue Bai Yu?
Bai Yu was brought to an abandoned warehouse by Bai Lin, and bald old Wang wanted to defile Bai Yu. Ignoring the risk of mission failure, Bai Yu would not let anyone mess around. Bai Yu gritted his teeth, betting his life, he couldn't possibly fall. Yet, even so, he fought these people to a stalemate. Suddenly, a bang sounded, a bullet swiftly grazed past Bai Yu's cheek, leaving a ferocious bloodstain on his face.
What, you can fight, can't you? Or is my bullet faster? President Wang sneered at Bai Yu.
He walked up to Bai Yu, placing the gun against his forehead. Come on, take off your clothes yourself, or I'll blow your head off.
In your dreams.
Seeing this, the bodyguard behind President Wang directly kicked Bai Yu's knee from the inside, making him kneel on the ground. A trace of despair flashed in Bai Yu's eyes, the shadow of Nie Lingyu flashed through his mind.
Was he really going to be violated by this scum? Go ahead, shoot.
Hearing Bai Yu say this, President Wang became furious.
Do you believe I'll really shoot you?
Bai Yu slowly closed his eyes, waiting for death to come. However, at this moment, with a loud noise, the door of the room they were in was kicked open.
Nie Lingyu stood at the doorway like a wrathful deity.
At this moment, Nie Lingyu's eyes were sharp as an eagle's, filled with a frost-like gloom. Without any hesitation, he raised his gun and shot directly at President Wang's wrist. The pistol in President Wang's hand immediately fell to the ground, reversing the situation in an instant.
Without any hesitation, another shot rang out abruptly, followed by an extremely miserable scream. President Wang clutched his groin, writhing on the ground. His subordinates, terrified by the scene, all knelt down and pleaded for mercy.
Let no one escape. Nie Lingyu stepped forward and pulled Bai Yulo into his arms, feeling as if his heart was being twisted by a knife.
I'm sorry.
I'm late. He rested his head against Nie Lingyu's chest, feeling utterly aggrieved.
Didn't you tell me to get lost? Why are you here?
Just let me die here. Tears streamed down his face.
Xiaogua, I will never treat you that way again.
It's all my fault. Nie Lingyu held Bai Yulo tightly, as if letting go would make him disappear. Bai Yulo's ear filled with the voice of little confused. Current target's favorability is 99.9%, only 7 days left until the mission ends.
Host, don't hesitate anymore.
Hurry up and finish the mission, just a little bit left, Bai Yulo responded softly, without saying another word. His body had stiffened, his face showing a bitter smile.
So, are we really leaving this time?
Nie Lingyu assured Bai Yulo that he would never let anyone hurt him again. Bai Yulo, I will also never distrust you again.
Whatever you say, I will believe.
Bai Yulo reached out and held Nie Lingyu's neck, unhesitatingly pressing his lips against Nie Lingyu's in the midst of the public gaze. Although it was the most intimate kiss, tears still uncontrollably fell from the corners of his eyes. Just as Bai Yulo was in despair, Nie Lingyu appeared.
He couldn't believe what the consequences would be if he had arrived any later.
Bai Yu reached out his hand, grabbed Nie Lingyu's neck, and kissed him. Nie Lingyu's heart panicked inexplicably. Even though he was still holding him, he suddenly felt a fear that he was about to leave him. Looking at the scene before him, Bai Lin's teeth clenched suddenly, and his heart was filled with overwhelming resentment. Why could Bai Yu receive so much affection while he was treated like trash and swept out of the Nie family? Now, Nie Lingyu would certainly not let him go. If he was going to die, he would take Bai Yu with him. However, at this moment, a bodyguard nearby suddenly noticed Bai Lin's presence. He saw Bai Lin holding a gun, aiming it towards their boss, and suddenly yelled, "Boss, danger." Bai Yu's pupils contracted sharply, too late to react.
He threw himself onto Nie Lingyu, pushing him away fiercely. A loud bang resonated, and the whole world seemed to fall silent. Nie Lingyu couldn't believe what he was seeing.
Bai Yu's back suddenly gushed out a lot of blood like a fountain. Nie Lingyu's heart contracted violently, almost forgetting to beat.
No, he shouted loudly, running to lift Bai Yu from the ground.
The only thought in his mind was to rush Bai Yu to the hospital.
He couldn't let Bai Yu die.
Bai Yu's face turned increasingly pale, and the severe pain coupled with excessive blood loss nearly made him faint. Large tears welled up in Nie Lingyu's eyes. A fear he had never felt before grew in his heart. Bai Yu slowly reached out his hand and caressed Nie Lingyu's face.
Lingyu, listen to me.
I may have been with Yao Fang before, but now there's no one else in my heart but you.
I don't like him anymore. When you get better, let's get married, okay?
In the last moment before closing his eyes, he heard the confused voice ringing in his ears.
Current target's favorability is 100, the mission is completed. Nie Lingyu is devastated. No, Bai Yu, don't. Open your eyes and look at me, please. We're not married yet.
Nie Lingyu holds Bai Yu's body, crying hysterically. His love of a lifetime is gone just like that. But at this moment, he hears Bai Lin laughing maniacally.
Bai Yu is finally dead.
Nie Lingyu raises his cane high and repeatedly strikes Bai Lin with it. I said he's not dead, and he won't die. Nie Lingyu directly tells his subordinates, kill everyone here and let them accompany Bai Yu in death.
Nie Lingyu holds Bai Yu's body.
Step by step, he walked forward. No one knew that at this moment, his dark side value had reached 100% and was still increasing without stopping. The ground behind him began to shatter and collapse.
Tall buildings fell instantly. The entire dimension started to crumble in an instant.
Nie Lingyu kissed the person in his arms, and a trace of gentleness finally flashed in his extremely cold eyes.
Xiao, no matter where you go, I will find you. I won't let you leave me again.
Bai Yu's death directly led to Nie Lingyu's dark rampage and the collapse of the dimension. Returning to the system space, Bai Yu still felt a bit uncomfortable after experiencing the previous world, but he didn't show it.
Host, congratulations on successfully completing the task. The system shop is now open. The host can use points to purchase corresponding items in it. Currently, there is a reward of 10,000 points. Thinking of the previous dimension, the body that was so weak it made Bai Yu collapse was unforgettable for him. He didn't want to have such a frail body in the next dimension. Little confused, is there any item that can enhance physical fitness? Now, there is a grand opening promotion. You can buy it for just 1 billion points. He originally thought 10,000 points was a lot, but it turned out to be so little. Is this a joke? Then what can he buy? The host can buy an item that relieves pressure. That only costs 10,000 points. Bayu didn't fully understand what it meant to relieve oppression, feeling somewhat skeptical, but he still made the purchase since he wouldn't be able to buy things in the system store once he arrived at the next plane. With everything ready, the journey through his second life began. Upon arrival, Bayu felt a moment of dizziness. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was a crystal chandelier above him. Bayu tried to sit up in bed, only then realizing with shock that his hands were tied with a rope. Turning his head, he looked towards the dressing mirror beside him. In the mirror, he saw himself in tattered clothes, his slender waist accentuated by beautifully defined abs that were hard to resist. Was this plane always this thrilling from the start? Without any hesitation, Bayu exerted his strength and instantly broke free from the ropes binding his hands. Although this body was also weak, it was much better than the feeble one he had in the previous world. Suddenly, there was the sound of a door opening from outside. Bayu quickly resumed his original position, pretending as if nothing had happened. A corpulent man entered from outside, holding a digital camera, intending not only to strengthen him but also to record it. Bayu was completely exasperated, not this kind of drama again. His eyes narrowed in an instant. He was ready to fight back. Not even one, but even if 10 of such trash came, he could still beat them senselessly. However, at that moment, an inexplicable pressure suddenly made his body go weak. Bayu asked Xiao Mihu in his mind, "What's happening? My legs feel very weak." Xiao Mihu explained earnestly, because this world is an ABO world, and the host is a delicate O, there exist 3 types of people here: the A's who have absolute leadership abilities. Medium and vulnerable Omegas possess the strongest pheromones that can influence other groups. Especially for an Omega like you, when facing an Alpha, you instinctively fear and submit. Bayu was confused but understood that now was not the best time to ask questions. He watched as the fat man approached him. In his second life, Bayu transmigrated into an ABO world and was about to be restricted by a fat man upon arrival. Due to the interference of pheromones, Bayu felt weak and powerless. He had just marveled at how the body he inhabited wasn't too weak, but now he realized he had been too naive. Being an Omega, he was extremely weak. He watched as the fat man got closer and closer. Suddenly, he clenched his fist and swung at the fat man with all his might. His most powerful punch only made the fat man stumble and fall to the ground. With no clothes to wear, Bayu quickly grabbed a bedsheet from the bed and wrapped it around himself. He had to leave this place immediately. The suppression from the pheromones made it impossible for him to exert any strength. Bayu frowned tightly and looked out the window. Fortunately, the height from the second floor wasn't too high. Jumping down should be safe. The fat man was shocked. This beauty was the fiancée of a significant figure. If anything happened to him, and it traced back to him, it would be terrible. The fat man quickly ordered his men to capture Bayu by any means necessary. Due to the influence of the pheromones, Bayu's legs were still incredibly weak. He saw a large group of bodyguards following him, and they were getting closer and closer. Without time to think, Bayu randomly pulled open a car door and hurriedly got in. He hastily closed the door and said to the person inside, "Sorry, I just want to hide here for a bit." After saying this, Bayu turned his head and met a pair of stern eyes. A powerful oppressive force enveloped him. Bayu looked at the man before him with some surprise. Who is this person who resembles the villain from the last realm by 70 to 80%? Just then, the voice of Little Confused timely chimed in, "Current favorability of the target person is 0. Hearing this, Bayu couldn't help but laugh. Indeed, while Bayu was enjoying this, he heard the man's voice, cold as ice, "Get out." Bayu stiffened, surprised by his harshness, not wanting to leave. Suddenly, he pulled the man before him by the neck and, to his shock, pressed his lips fiercely against his. At that moment, Li Yufeng was staring at Bayu with cold eyes, feeling no urge to throw him out, but rather wanting more. Even feeling an oddly familiar sensation wrapping around his heart, as if he had met the person before him a long time ago. Where exactly? Why doesn't he have even a slight memory of it? Meanwhile, the driver in the front was completely stiffened. Heavens, this kid must have the heart of a bear and the courage of a leopard to dare kiss their empire's commander, Mr. Li Yufeng, like that. It's well known that Mr. Li detests Omegas, and this Omega not only touched him but even dared to kiss him. This is practically suicidal. The driver saw Li Yufeng's eyes narrow in an instant and then glared darkly at him. "Aren't you going to get out?" Terrified, the driver hurriedly opened the door and ran out.
He then moved his nose close to Bayu's nape, and a pleasant scent of sweet cherry juice instantly emanated from there, a smell he was very familiar with.
How strong is the possessive desire of the villain from the old palace? How strong is the villain Lao Gong's possessiveness? He wanted to mark him the first time they met, but reason controlled him. How could he mark such a person of unknown origin? Li Yufeng pushed Bayu away. So, you can't wait to seduce me? What do I want? You belong to me alone. Li Yufeng sneered disdainfully, such arrogance. Just a nobody like this. Li Yufeng grabbed Bayu's wrist, his gaze stern. Do you realize what you have done? You have offended the Empire's commander. I can directly jail you under the charge of seducing a public official. Bayu pulled back his hand. The villain really becomes more and more annoying. It was clearly him who kissed me first, and now he insists it was me who seduced him. How can he twist right and wrong like this? He even wants to send me to jail. Bayu glared at him, really wanting to bite him hard. However, at this moment, a muddled voice timely said, target person's favorability increased by 10. Bayu looked at Li Yufeng speechlessly. Indeed, this guy's insincere nature hasn't changed at all. Alright then, just send me to jail. He wanted to see how the villain would act. But the next second, a metal handcuff was directly placed on Bayu's hands. Good, you do have some self-awareness. Bayu was speechless. What's happening? Xiao Mihao looked awkwardly at Bayu. I forgot to mention the villain's corruption value. From the moment he met you, the villain's corruption value soared directly to 80%. Bayu internally screamed, why didn't you say so earlier? Li Yufeng looked at Bayu in front of him. This nobody who came from nowhere could actually affect his mind so deeply, it was incredibly unimaginable. A mysterious desire arose in Li Yufeng's heart, wanting to have him, to possess him. For such a person, there are obviously only two choices. Either to have him and lock him away, not allowing anyone else to see him. Either kill him and let him disappear completely from this world, it's over. The villain's level of evil has risen again, and the surprised shout of the naive Zhang suddenly rang out. Stop shouting, I know without you telling me. Bayu helplessly looked at his wrist, it was just a kiss. That big bad guy, does he need to be so petty? It's too much. However, Li Yufeng is not completely inhumane, he did not send Bayu to prison. However, Bayu's situation has not improved much, because he was locked by Li Yufeng in a basement and directly chained to the wall. This place is cold and damp, not fit for humans. Bayu couldn't help but curse loudly, this bastard, doesn't he know this is very cold? Not even giving me a piece of clothing. The villain's evil level has reached 80% and he directly locked Bayu in the basement. Bayu couldn't help but curse loudly. This bastard, doesn't he know this will be very cold? Not even giving me a piece of clothing. But if he gave you one, what if you escaped? After all, this host is as agile as a monkey. Whose side are you on? Bayu really wanted to beat it up. Host, you won't be kept here by the villain until the mission time ends, right? Of course not, but you're still here. What if the villain doesn't unlock your handcuffs? You'd have to be cuffed all the time. Click, the naive one hadn't finished speaking when he suddenly stopped, because he saw Bayu actually broke the handcuffs. Is he that awesome? Bayu suddenly seemed to think of something. Right, didn't you ask me to buy a tool to relieve oppression? Can it be used now? Oh right, I almost forgot. Host, get ready, I'm going to use it now, and then it turned into a shower of white light falling on Bayu. Bayu only felt exceptionally refreshed all over. Instantly, even the faint pressure emanating from the guards outside seemed to vanish. He no longer had to endure the suppression from the annoying pheromones. Directing Xiao Mihua to transport this world's storyline, in this era, the villain's identity is the Empire's commander, named Li Yufeng. His status is supreme, truly second only to one person above tens of thousands. Aside from the king himself, no one can influence his commands. However, because his power was too great, it posed a significant threat to the king's position. Thus, while the king outwardly valued him, he secretly tried every means to eliminate him. The original host was a pawn placed by the king at Li Yufeng's side. She was the fiancée appointed to Li Yufeng by the king himself, intended to collect evidence of Li Yufeng's rebellion. Of course, even without evidence, they would fabricate some. Then they could rightfully capture Li Yufeng in one fell swoop. Unfortunately, Li Yufeng had long known their intent. Not long after taking the original host home, he found an excuse to get rid of her. Her espionage activities even more so infuriated Li Yufeng. This prompted him, who originally had no intent to rebel, to start an uprising, throwing the entire country into chaos with continuous warfare, eventually leading to the complete collapse of the entire world. Bayu frowned with difficulty. So I am the fiancé of the villain, yet also a spy intending to harm him. And now he wants to get rid of me. Then why didn't he recognize me just now? Am I not his fiancé? This is because the villain had not the slightest interest in the original person, not even willing to glance at her photo, planning to eliminate her as soon as he brought her home. This identity truly is awkward. According to the plot, he is supposed to move into the villain's house arranged by the king tomorrow. No, he needs to find a way out. Thinking briefly, Bayu covered his stomach with his hands and began his dramatic performance, clutching his belly as if in severe pain, the sound of which was utterly pitiful. The guard at the door was startled by the pitiful sounds. When Mr. Lee had instructed him to guard this place, he was specially told to keep a close watch on the person inside. Hearing the noise, the guard quickly opened the door to check inside. Never expected that upon opening the door, what he would see was a beauty. Bayu was locked in the basement by the villain, and to be able to leave, he had to think of a way out. Bayu hugged his stomach, desperately wailing. The guard at the door was startled by the tragic sound. He hurriedly opened the door to look inside, never expecting that upon opening the door, he would see a beauty.